Hello and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast, take 2. I'm your host today, it's Becky. We're going to talk about Everton and we're going to talk about United, which is on Wednesday night. We're starting earlier today. It was a request to start at 8 o'clock. So it's 10 past 8, so not bad. I've got wet hair and I've just about finished my tea. But we're here and I've got some great hosts with me to help me tonight. I've got Matt. How are you, Matt?
Fine, Becky. We've just had a little pre-run of the start, haven't we? And it's all good. And we think it's going to be a good start to the show. So, yeah, now I'm happy to be here. Not seen James for a while. Not been on with yourself for a while. So, looking forward to talking about another good victory over Everton. Big game against United on Wednesday. So, yeah, let's get into it.
And James, how are you in your student digs there? First show, I think, isn't it? After being a student at uni.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. It's been essentially on a month-long clubbing spree, so that's been fun. So I apologise to my hiatus Cheese Room fans. I know you've been waiting for my return with bated breath and gasps, but I'm back now, so you can rejoice. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to be on as ever with you two lovely people. And everyone watching, you're all lovely people.
Okay, so as James said, hello to everyone in the chat. Can see some familiar faces already. If you can hit the like for us, please, and subscribe as well. That would really help us out. I can see some familiar faces there. Okay, right. So Saturday's game, 5:30. 2-0 win against Everton. Matt, what do we make of the lineup when it was announced?
Well, I think it was, to be fair, it was exactly what I expected. I did some stuff on the socials for the Cheese Room and predicted the team and got it bang on. So quite pleased with myself for that. But yeah, no great shocks was there. Doherty was always going to play over Emerson being suspended. Thought Davis would come in for Langley. Not much of a difference between them, and 3-4-3 is what we do mostly when everybody is fit. So Perisic back in. Happy with that. Like I think toss of a coin between him and Sessegnon at the minute. Sessegnon did all right last week, but yeah, pretty much what I thought it was. Obviously, Richarlison in for Kulusevski again because he's injured. But yeah, exactly what I thought it would be.
James, you agree with that?
Yeah, that's basically what I thought. The only real debate in my mind was if he played Perisic on the right and Sessegnon on the left. But as we know, he went with Doherty. That was the only thing that really added any intrigue to me.
We were just saying
thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Well, Dave will be happy to know that in my window, I have a Welsh flag that everyone on the street can see. And yes, I can send you a picture, Dave, because I took a picture this morning. So, yeah, I even have a piercing now. So, you're welcome.
We were just saying off air that it was quite nice that the formation was kind of determined by form or previous games or run the fixtures and not determined by injuries or people coming back from injuries. And obviously Kulusevski is injured, but he said last week, didn't he, that Mora was back and Spence on the bench and Skippy was back, so he's kind of building minutes. And so that was quite nice that although it's at times tricky to guess the formation, and Conte said a few bits today, hasn't he? He's trying to kind of tease United in terms of which formation he's going to play on Wednesday. But yeah, it's nice that Conte can kind of control who he picks as opposed to it being kind of something he can't control. Which I think is a nice thing. Okay, so so we were saying that I was in the stadium, so I was in the South Stand. I left here about 8 o'clock in the morning, got to a friend in South London about 12, and then got into Tottenham for about 2-ish. And we were sort of saying that, we thought they started reasonably well. It was reasonably front-footed. It wasn't, overly defensive. I think the people in the crowd felt that it was a fairly positive start. Don't get me wrong, there weren't loads of chances and shots on target and that sort of stuff, but it was a more kind of front, kind of facing kind of way to start. And I was just saying before that Everton had come for a point, didn't they, Matt? Do you think?
Yeah, I said to you, didn't I? I think Everton came to stink the joint out. So I think we were on the front foot, because teams like that, you've got to try and get an early goal against them, because the longer it goes sort of 0-0, they'll just dig their heels in, take an age over corners and throw-ins. And like for me, Everton are sort of like the new Burnley. That's how they play. They're just boring. Just come and stink the joint out. So I think that's what we tried to do for the first sort of 10, 15 minutes. I thought we were on the front foot. I thought we were looking to impose ourselves on the game. But obviously, as the game draws on and they just sit in, it sort of dampens out a bit, and sort of their game plan sort of worked a little bit, didn't they? Because they sort of had a couple of breaks where they could have scored and they never. But I thought we started brightly.
Yeah, James, you agree with that?
I think we lacked a little bit of pace. I think we could have been a bit more controlling of the game. You know, we conceded a few things here and there. James. No, I thought we were okay, to be honest. I'll admit I was watching the game while incredibly hungover. So maybe in the moment, my annoyance at the football was more significant than it should have been. But yeah, I mean, with Everton being the new Burnley, I mean, you know, we relegated the team, but you can't relegate the idea. And the idea has remained. So...
Yeah, the time wasting right from the off was pretty obvious, and the like going down for nothing tackles, and Bentancur got booked for absolutely nothing. And we've talked before here about Basuma getting early bookings and how it kind of affects his play. And I thought Bentancur did extremely well. The fact that he was on a booking, like I said, the crowd were kind of booing. How long it was taking to take throw-ins and corners and goal kicks and all that sort of stuff. And then, there were a couple of chances, like Kane had that kind of flicked header, didn't he? And Son had that one when it kind of came into the box, but nothing of any real note. And interestingly, I watched Match Today, I think about 2:00 in the morning when we got in. And the first thing they show is the one where Bentancur ends up in the left back position, and it kind of gets lofted over his head. And then he's kind of beaten, and Gray blazes over, doesn't he? A bit Sissoko-esque.
Yeah.
That,
Just that was their game plan, wasn't it, really? And they had that big out ball, and sort of Bentancur just got caught under it and just got beaten purely for pace after that by Damari Gray, and he just sort of blazed it over, didn't he? It just a poor finish, really. But that was their game plan, to literally, just fill their box, try and get as many bodies behind the box, bore the pants off you, into bore you into submission, and then try and get you when you're not looking. But Pickford started doing the old Ben Foster tricks, didn't he? Taking ages for a goal kick. And then the other chance they got though was of our own making. Romero and Højbjerg get caught in each other's way. Onana goes through, and that was definitely Sissoko-esque. So that their game plan sort of worked a little bit for them. They didn't take their chances, and I sort of said to some of the guys in the WhatsApp group, I hope we make them pay for those missed chances now, which we sort of did. But yeah, I've got something from they were people at half time. Everybody's got different opinions, and a few people were, moaning about the performance, while some were saying, it's been all right. One of the guys, Rich, in our patron group, was saying that we had been on the front foot, but we were lucky not to be 2-0 down, and twice their game plan almost pierced ours, and yet we haven't created many good chances. It's not a bad performance, but it lacks this, it backs up what James is saying. It wasn't a bad performance, but it lacks the spark and energy we had for the first 10 minutes, and I thought he was bang on with that. Thought we started really well. It wasn't bad, but it just, we didn't maintain that intensity and try and push them back. But obviously the second half we came out and kicked on a bit.
I think this is the way we play now, isn't it? I think we it's almost a sort of see how things go at half time kind of approach. Yeah. And and I know a few people saying in the ground, like reading today on Twitter, some people saying, like you just said, some people said, I was bored to death for the first half. Other people said they actually thought it was quite nice and we were quite controlled, and it was probably one of the most controlled games we've ever seen so far this season, and it was just 2 chances that weren't really particularly of note. What I loved about being in the stadium, though, which you don't ever see when you see it on TV, is that Romero and Højbjerg proper squared up to each other when they made the mistake, trying to kind of work out whose fault it was. That was quite funny. So it was 0-0 at half time. They had the Spurs Reach team were on the pitch at half time doing about the initiative that they've got and Black Lives Matter, and that was really, really interesting to listen to. And interestingly, before kickoff, Harry Kane's video was shown on the big screens because he launched that, didn't he, on Monday?
Yeah.
On World Mental Health Day. So that was at halftime. I was so it was halftime. I think, like we've said in the past, no one thinks we aren't going to score. So everybody thinks, even if we were unfortunately 1-0 down, there's all this sort of belief that they will get something from the game, and we can change formation if we want to, because obviously Basuma wasn't starting, and as I kind of say that, almost, and I've watched it back 3 times. I've watched the match back yesterday. Almost the first incident they show in the second half is Richarlison sitting on the grass, because there's no actual incident that happens. We were in the south stand and we just noticed it was sitting on the floor. He's kind of like holding his calf and sort of like tweaking at his calf, and then he goes off and then Basuma comes on. And we'll talk about kind of the change in formation, the impact of Bentancur afterwards, Basuma afterwards. But I think while we're talking about it, so after the game, Richarlison had an interview on Portuguese TV, and if anyone's seen it, it's on my Twitter if you want to go and see it. And he's crying, he's breaking his heart, saying that it's a similar. And he obviously comes out in crutches, as you can see. He's had a similar injury before, and the last time he had that injury, it took 2 months to get. And it was just the way he was, doing that. I thought, fair dues for him. When Kane had those kind of injuries, you didn't see Kane for like 2 weeks. You didn't hear it in the sight of him. But Richarlison came out, had that interview, and then it was this sort of idea of how long is he going to be out for, and then is he going to miss the World Cup, as Kerry's saying there? Is he going to miss the World Cup? And then I came home from school today and went on. I think I was on BBC Sport, I was on Twitter, and people were saying that Conte was asked about him at the press conference, wasn't he? And he was saying it might only be 2 weeks, and that we might get some games from him, and then hopefully we'll go to the World Cup. So I think that's lovely.
Well, bad news for him. Obviously, he got injured and had to come off. Good news that hopefully he's going to be fit for the World Cup. But it was even better news for us on the pitch that he come off, because the change in formation, the change in personnel, in my opinion, sort of helped us in the game. Because I know I like Richarlison, works hard, really good player, but playing out on the right ain't for him. He does it. He tries to do his best, but it doesn't work. Doesn't work. He can't do what he's best at. It's not his best position. Ironically, it's his worst position, I think, out the 3. So, we changed it a bit, and it worked in our favour, didn't it?
Craig saying there that Richie tweeted. We've got a slide of the tweet. I must admit, I did copy it and then put it into Google Translate because it was like Portuguese. But he's saying something like, "Yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks." And
here we go. Look, there it is.
Yeah, guys, thank God, it was great. It was just a big scare. He put something like, "Thanks for all the messages" as well. I think I saw one earlier on in the day. Thanks for all the messages. 2 weeks and I'll be back. Thank you for your messages and your affection. Oh, obviously wanted to play. I didn't realise that. When I got back here, my Dave said that they said over commentary that they knew he was playing with a niggle. I didn't realise that. Those of you, if you watched it back, there is like a tackle on his kind of like on his near his boot fairly early on in the game. And I'm thinking about the 50 seconds or so. Hopefully he's back. But I agree with you completely. I like Richarlison. He needs to be playing up front, right wing. He's not Kulusevski. And although, like you said, he had a great reception from the Everton fans as well. He didn't really do anything. There was one interception I can remember on the halftime whistle over by East Lower, and he sort of takes the ball off somebody and he's about to run away, and then the ref blows for halftime, and that's the only thing I can remember him doing.
James might back me, but it's just the way he plays, and his first touch isn't great. He does bits, but he doesn't really create enough out there, and he's not sort of a winger, and he doesn't get out wide and beat anyone, and he sort of, and when you're playing with him, because he wants to sort of be really where Kane and Son are, that they sort of take each other's sort of positions up, and the whole thing for me just doesn't work as well as like when Kulusevski's there, or when you got Kane and Son playing up front. Kane will drop in, it lets Son, gives him more space to run into. He can stretch defenders. I just don't think it works. What do you think, James?
I think the predominant benefit he brings to a team is, he's got that feistiness. It kind of reminds me a bit of maybe a Drogba type player. He's not really going to create a whole lot, but he does scare apologies for the vulgarity, he does scare the shit out of defenders because he's up for a bit of a scrap. I don't think he's best out on the right side. I think Kulusevski's better at that role. But you need that, that almost Lamella-esque influence. Richie's
With
basically he's a good Lamella, is basically what Richie is.
He wins corners, he gets throw-ins, he gets free kicks. It's that sort of thing.
He doesn't give up, does he? He doesn't. No. He doesn't give up. He's not going to give up on you. And he'll get, even though he's playing out of position, he's giving you his all. You're going to get everything from him.
And I think that's what you're saying. He was signed to be a rotation for Kane or for Son, wasn't he? He wasn't signed to be a right winger. It's just unfortunate that's the nature of that kind of happened.
That's it. Play with Kane. If we go 3-5-2, he's more than capable of playing 3-5-2 and resting Son. But I feel for him a bit. He's doing his best out there and giving it his all, but it's not really working for him.
So then Basuma came on, we changed formation, and then the first thing I can remember is that ball that came over, and then I can't remember, someone in chat to remind me of who it was that passed to him, and Kane did that like worldy volley, didn't he?
I think Ben Davies crossed it, didn't he?
Davis. I wanted that to win. Yeah, it absolutely boomed it, and then it came to Son, didn't he? And Son just sort of boomed it over. Much better immediately. I think that was on like the 57th minute, and Basuma came on the 55th minute. So like immediately, we were all getting chances, and it was much better.
Well, the wing backs, because like obviously we'll come on to him, but Doherty, I'm not a massive Doherty fan, but I think the fact if you can push him, you'll get more from him if you can push him higher up the pitch. Because he sort of
like
gets
a wing back.
he gets it. Yeah, but he doesn't have to defend, and he's not the sort of guy who's going to pick the ball up deep and make up ground. I think he does his best work with balls. He got into the box a couple of times, didn't he? When we were higher up the pitch, he sort of had it was his sort of left foot swinger that Pickford spilt. But so we started getting a bit more from him and a bit more from Perisic because he got further up the pitch and. Then Højbjerg and Bentancur can help with attacks and stuff like that. So the whole dynamic sort of changed. We could get more bodies forward to cope with the amount of bodies they had at the back.
And Perisic had that chance, didn't he, where he crossed it for Sonny, and Sonny just the header was really weak, wasn't it? And didn't really kind of get any kind of power on it at all.
No.
But so it says here in the run sheet, let the shot from Perisic that Pickford spilled. So leading to the goal. So James, talk us through your version of events for the penalty.
Kane had the ball in the penalty area. Pickford came out. Pickford fouled him.
There was a shot first from Doherty, wasn't there? Doherty shot first.
Penalty.
Left foot swinger.
Pickford then parried it, didn't he? And I said that if that had been Lloris, I'd have been fuming because the parry was really poor, wasn't it, from Pickford? Was it a dead certain penalty for you, James?
My stream cut out for a second because my uni internet isn't very good.
I'll answer that for you, Beck, while his streams.
But yes,
so,
a reaction of Pickford, and he didn't appeal. He apologised. Pickford didn't appeal, and he apologised to his team afterwards. Yeah, it's a penalty. It's a penalty. I mean, if it was given against us, maybe we'd complain a little bit. But
absolutely not, mate. That's a nailed on.
Premier League is what it
that is. That is a nailed on penalty, and even Pickford more or less told the ref, "I've wiped him out." He just like Zach was saying, "Oh, they're going to give it." I said they'll go to VAR, but they don't need to. Pickford's literally lay there with his hands on the head, saying,
and his reaction is he puts his head on the grass like that and does that with his hands, and he knows he's in the wrong.
It's a nailed on pen. If someone did that outside the area to a player, it's a free kick. But he's literally, maybe Kane did make a little bit of it. Probably did. That's what most players do now. But that is a nailed on pen. If you don't get that, like I had someone at work today, a Liverpool fan, saying to me, and I said, mate, that gets given at Anfield every day of the week. That gets given at Old Trafford every day of the week. Nailed on penalty.
Do you think it should have been a red card, James, as well? People in the crowd didn't seem to think it was. There wasn't this kind of idea of off in the ground.
I think a red card's harsh as well as a penalty because I think it wasn't dangerous play, was it? It's definitely a foul. I mean,
it's not
again,
stopping. It's the argument as whether it stopped a goal scoring opportunity. Jo was standing next to me, and she said the second Kane takes it round him, he's just going to flick it in. But that's because it's Kane, isn't it? So I don't know.
Is there some kind of rule now?
harsh.
Is there some kind of like it used to be? If it was a goal scoring opportunity, it was a straight red. But is there something now that they sort of like if a player they
Give them
don't
the benefit of the doubt.
like a double jeopardy thing. I think they said double jeopardy in the commentary. I'm not exactly sure on the rules on it, but they're not as sort of strict with it. They're a little bit more lenient now with those sorts of things. But that is a nailed on penalty. I don't care what anyone else says.
So after it felt like an age, and was it Tarkowski and who's the ex-Arsenal fella? What's his name?
Iwobi.
They're all over there, aren't they, having words in him? After, obviously, Wednesday, when he missed the second one.
Yeah.
It's in somebody's garden in Enfield, the ball still.
Yeah.
We were kind of standing in the south stand almost exactly in the position that he missed on Wednesday. So, yeah. Kane's used to taking ages. We talked about this before. He's used to people duffing up the penalty spot and all sorts. I can remember Colombia doing that and all sorts. So he's used to that. That's not the reason he missed on Wednesday. And then, Pickford went the right way, didn't he? From my view, I think I must have blinked possibly when he shot it, because as I blinked, it felt like Pickford had kind of caught it, but it was just slightly above Pickford's hands, wasn't it, and went through. Did you see the interview that Kane gave to it, like in his TikTok afterwards? He said something along the lines of the first penalty after the miss is always the hardest one, and he was back in training on Thursday taking loads and loads of penalties. But I was saying to Joey, he seems to take all these penalties against England keepers or previous England keepers or under 21 England keepers, and it just seems to be with England keepers he has to take penalties against. Obviously not the Frankfurt one, but
For me, when Kane takes a penalty, though, like he's up against Pickford probably knows which way is like Kane's best penalties are. So I'm thinking to myself that because that area, usually a little bit higher, is where Kane goes, isn't it? Bang, and it's in there. So I'm thinking to myself, just go where your best at taking penalties, mate. Make sure you hit it right, because if he hits it hard enough, it doesn't matter if Pickford's going the right way. He ain't saving it. So that's sort of what he did. I think, if he'd have got it a little bit higher, it would have been perfect, wouldn't it? But too fast, too hard.
Exactly. Pickford knew where he was going.
Yeah.
If you hit it hard enough and quick enough, it's going in.
Yeah.
There's no way Pickford was saving that. He's not the reincarnation of Lev Yashin. He's a mediocre goalkeeper, so he's never saving a Harry Kane penalty if Kane hits it properly, is he? So.
He's all right on penalties, though, Pickford, isn't he? He's quite a decent penalty save. He's quite good at saving penalties. He's not too bad.
He's not the worst, but
No.
a Harry Kane penalty, if he strikes it properly, it's going in.
Yeah.
19. I mean, aside from the miss recently, whenever we get a penalty and Kane's on the pitch, I just think, oh, that's a goal. I don't even have any suspense anymore because I just think.
But I think because of him missing on Wednesday and that sort of very strange sort of last half-hour game, there were a couple of people in the stadium who couldn't watch. They turned around and couldn't watch and waiting for the kind of the cheer, a bit like White Klopp does. I just thought it's early enough in the game that if he does miss, there's still enough time left. But I think I never really thought he was going to miss. It's interesting because in commentary they always say, don't they? Kane is so confident and so reliable. They now have to kind of say, usually Kane is really reliable, or usually Kane, you bet your house on Kane scoring a penalty, and they have to that because he's missed 2 this season.
I know he sort of puts him in a few different places now, but for me, I know it sounds silly because, like I said, the keeper sort of knows where he's going. But I like that one, to the keeper's right. I like that, and I like him to hit it hard. The old Shearer-esque penalty, step up, bang. You can go the right way, but you ain't going to save it type thing. And I'd rather just see him do that all the time. Bang, bang, bang. But, he don't miss many, does he really? We just, he's missed, how many he's missed? What's he missed? 2 this season?
I think
in both in victories, aren't they? So
Frankfurt was just a tired last-minute penalty. I think that was just tired legs, wasn't it? Just thinking, trying to bladder it in.
Forest,
and he's just...
They've not become an influential miss, have they? I know he would want to score them. he's getting so close to Greaves' record as well. He obviously would have been too close to Greaves' record as well, which probably will annoy him. But yeah, the thing that I noticed in the ground immediately is that Everton just became this sort of completely different team, much like when I saw Burnley, when we scored late against Burnley at Wembley, when Ericsson scored in that pouring rain. Hart was throwing the ball really fast and running after it, and that's exactly what Everton did. It was like they kind of felt they needed to change something, which meant people were saying around me meant that obviously they would then come at us, and that would open even more space. What did you think how Basuma did, James, after that kind of point? Because I thought he was immense from that point.
Oh yeah, I thought he was brilliant. He was really, really solid after that. I thought he'd been a bit underwhelming in previous games for us, but he's obviously had enough time to kind of get with the team, as it were. Doesn't really articulate what I'm trying to say very well, but I thought he was really, really good. And I think as soon as we were on the 3-5-2, and as soon as Everton particularly tried to actually, play a game of football and not play for a point, that midfield three, all of them were immense. Bentancur, Højbjerg, and Bissouma, they were all immense. And also, someone finds my reference to Lev Yashin funny, so there you
go. So lots of people saying
that was the Bissouma we've been waiting to see, wasn't it, Beth? He's come in a couple of games. He's not really been up to it, and Conte sort of said about his, tactically he's not getting it, but he came on and he looked like he got it. He sort of knew what his role was. Made that brilliant tackle, didn't he? On where he just sort of got his body in front of. Can't even remember who it was, but he got it. I know what you mean, turned,
and then span round.
Span round, and that's the Bentancur we've been waiting to see. But as we'll come on to, it just freed Højbjerg and Bentancur up a bit to add bodies going forward. So I think he got started in Man United, but we'll see. Conte's been talking about Lucas and that today, but he was superb when he come on. That's the Bissouma we've been waiting to see, and you just felt sort of confident then, didn't you? Even though we were 1-0 up, we were sort of getting the ball and we were knocking it back, and it'd come into him, and he'd play it out wide and or just back to the defender. And I just sort of was watching it then, and I was just growing in confidence even more. I'm glad when the second one went in, but Everton's confidence started draining, and ours started. We just sort of took control then, didn't we?
When you look at a midfield three of that quality defensively, and these days, particularly going forward, and you look at Bentancur, he's always been pretty good on the progressive play, and Højbjerg now, he's been contributing in the attacking third quite a lot more than previously. I do look at our midfield three and think, this is a proper Antonio Conte midfield three. They're all strong, tough players, two of which are very good going forward. They all work hard. They can all put a tackle in. And, I'm sure give Basuma enough time and he'll have contributions in the final third more so. But when you look at how much more Højbjerg's influencing in the final third, which that was never really his role, right, at Southampton or previously at Spurs, you just feel like Højbjerg and Bentancur have improved so much under Conte in such a short period of time. And I just think it took Son a year to bed in at Spurs. How much better is Basuma going to be towards the end of the season than he was against Everton? I think he's going to get even better. And he was
100%, mate.
And what was nice was you just saying then about that when he made that challenge, he then freed it up, and it was Kane then who kind of lost the ball, but then sort of got it back again, and then sent it over for Bentancur, who was on the right wing. And as soon as and we'll talk about when it went in, but I turned to Joe straight away and went, that was like what he did at Leicester. Bentancur did that exact same pass for Leicester when Sonny was on 2 and he sort of fell over the ball in the penalty area when he was desperate for the hat-trick. Bentancur was the person who crossed it in that position as well, same time. So came over, Bentancur, first time. When I watched it back yesterday, I'd forgotten it was first time ball. And it felt about an hour until Højbjerg actually shot. In the stadium, it felt such a long time that he was sort of controlled it, waited for another player to come around and control it again, then shot, and then the deflection. But watching it back yesterday, it seems far quicker on telly than in real life that he put that shot away. Because we were all saying to him, imagine if he'd missed or if he'd been tackled, or the place would have just erupted. But yeah, it was a great finish. And I love the fact that he acknowledged Bentancur, didn't he? And he ran straight over to him. Because as James has said there, Højbjerg's had 5 goals or assists in his last 5 games. Because he's
top player back. That's
against Fulham, and I'm very sort of saying this to people in the pub after the game, because the whole conversation was, hello, how are you? Where are you from? What do you think of the game? Do you like Højbjerg? That was almost a question that every single different person always asked, and I've always said I don't really mind anybody as long as he put a shift in.
Massive deflection. That's what Dave and Caller have got to do now on their opinion on Højbjerg. But like that goal comes about because Bissouma's on the pitch and allowing those two to get further forward, isn't it?
Forward, yeah.
For me, that's and that's what it it's all right having those three up front, but you get Kane and Son moving around and freeing Son up, and those two have got a little bit extra in their locker than that. They work really hard when they're in there as a two, but you free them up a little, and there's quality there from both of them. But yeah, that goal comes around because we've got that safety blanket, safety net behind those two, and it was great to see them linking up, wasn't it? Because you've seen it, you've been in the ground back. I think the last few weeks, Bentancur and Højbjerg have been fantastic. And when sometimes Bentancur goes and chases down the keeper, doesn't he? He sort of like closes down and he really goes forward, and he helps with those two doing that. Them two have been
because
fantastic.
In the other formation, you barely really see him in that position. You just see him in the middle, kind of making interceptions, or having to kind of make tackles, hence the bookings. Whereas when he's in that formation, he isn't really involved in any of that. He's so much further up. Completely different.
But there's more that they can offer. Don't get me wrong. If they play in that too, that's fine. But if we switch it up, they can offer more than they have been, and they've proved it now as well, haven't they? So,
John, go on.
The other thing I'll say is, particularly when we play the 3-5-2, I think the wing backs are so much more influential. I mean, in the 3-4-3, both of our wingers play very, very narrow anyway, right? And I personally think that pushes Son into a position that he's not best in, particularly when playing against the back three. But in a 3-5-2, because Son is so much more central to Kane, our wing backs have so much more space out wide. Particularly Doherty really, really excels in that position, as does Perisic, right? And I think you get the best out of the midfield three, particularly Højbjerg and Bentancur, and out of the wing backs. So, and even Son, I think, really. I think they all stepped up when we changed formation.
I think
go on.
I think Son likes to get a little bit more central now, doesn't he? He sort of built up this. Him and Kane are so good together, and I think sometimes when he plays in a Conte style and he's out wide, he runs into a bit of trouble, doesn't he? He gets the ball, and if he has a bad touch, somebody else is there to clean it out. Where if he's got more space to play in, because of his pace and everything, if he has that bad touch and he nicks it past someone, he's away. Or he likes to operate, obviously, as most attackers do, but he likes to operate with a bit more space around him. So I think it helps him as well. Don't get me wrong, he does a great job in that position, but in the way Conte sort of wants a player to play in that position, I don't think he's overly keen on it, but he does it. He just, but when sort of him and Kane are working how they do, he comes alive when spaces are created. So, when
I was watching it back yesterday with Højbjerg's goal, I was watching Sonny. So Sonny kind of runs all the way around Højbjerg, hoping that he'll square it to him, possibly because he took an hour to take the shot off. And it's funny because they all run to the near side of Westlow and they're all celebrating. And for a second, Sonny looks a bit disappointed they didn't pass to him.
He wants to score, doesn't he?
Of course he does. I said to a friend yesterday, because obviously I always talk about Sonny, he's my favourite player. And someone tweeted me and went, "Where's all your Sonny though?" I was like, "It's the first game for ages. I didn't take any pictures of Son. Didn't have any footage of him at a corner. I don't film the game all the time, don't get me wrong, for people piling. But I take pictures of him if running to the corner to show Jack, or at the beginning when he waves and stuff. And I didn't have any because he wasn't really that involved, was he? But it's great. I said to somebody else, it's great that people are saying who is the best player, and it's great that we finally got a choice of players to think about. Because I was just about to ask about Romero. I thought Romero was back to his kind of almost full best on Saturday, and I know it's not necessarily a game he was massively involved in, but he seemed to have his sharpness back, and his kind of tracking back seemed to be there, and that kind of feistiness in him was back. James, what did you think of Romero?
I thought some of his challenges were superb. I thought there was a stark improvement for Romero. I thought he dropped off a little bit. I didn't think it was catastrophic, but sometimes players go through difficult patches, and I thought he's really, really good against Everton. Maybe not the game where he's going to be doing the most arduous defending in his life, particularly, but I thought he didn't do anything wrong, really. He played well. I thought some of those challenges were classic Romero challenges, which feels weird to say about someone.
And the crowd loved that as well. The crowd, they were roaring every time he made those kind of tackles.
He gets the team and the crowd, and probably Conte as well, all going every time he goes in for one of those classic sliding challenges. And yeah, I thought he was very good, and that bodes well for the United game, right? Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I think he just played really well that game.
And we'll talk about other defenders at the same time now. So Doherty. So after the second goal, there was a flurry of subs. And talking of cheers, there was a huge cheer when Spence came on. But the thing is as well, again, Spence spent longer on the side of the pitch than he did on the pitch, much like the Forest game. In the Forest game, he was getting ready to come on, and then they play it about, and then he comes on. The same thing happened on Saturday. He was waiting for ages. But it was a very loud cheer when he came on. Lucas and then Sanchez and Skip. And then Doherty went off to a massive, massive hug from Conte. If anyone's seen it kind of on Twitter, I know we've had Conte cam and stuff dropped today, but he properly gives him a big bear hug, and then Matt kind of walks off down to the seats with a huge grin on his face. Have we got a picture of that, Matt? Have we got?
We haven't got a. I'll have a look.
What did Conte say? Have we got one of something that Conte says?
Conte said something about his mate Matthew, didn't he?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Is it this one? Yeah, he's really happy for Matthew.
Yeah, he played a good game against Brighton, but today he was better. He was good against Brighton, but today I saw Matt Doherty of last season. I said to him, "Now, finally, you are the player I know," and that, that's lovely for him to say, because, like I said, the smile that he got when he came off.
Do you think he got better as the game went on, though? Because I thought to start off with, he was a little bit safe, a little bit sort of like, just pass it backwards or sideways or give the easy pass. Didn't really try and do anything.
Arguably, all of them were like that, really, in the first half. That was actually pretty much everybody.
But the minute you can get him higher up the pitch, he becomes more effective, doesn't he? And then I think a bit of the confidence comes, starts coming back. And he did have a better game, as the game wore on. I thought he had a decent game in the end. And I think with a lot of people as well, it's just, anybody but Emerson for a lot of fans, isn't it? With, the right wing back scenario. But it is, isn't it, James? I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I think a lot of people, could bring Stephen Carr back to play tomorrow and they'd rather have him than Emerson now.
I think some fans would rather go into local spoons and find the fattest bloke there and whack him right back.
Which is very unfair, but yeah.
I don't think he's a bad player. He's just not really a wing back, is he? I mean, if Conte is persisting with him, he obviously sees something. I don't think Royal's a lazy player. He obviously works hard, right? And he's still young. Maybe he can grow into that wing back role. But Doherty is much more natural at it. He is a wing back who, when we signed, we tried to play as a fullback, which he's not.
He's better in the final third, isn't he, James?
Yeah, he excels in a 3-5-2 on the right, getting into those inside half spaces. That's what he excels at. That's what Conte even wants out of his wing backs. But yeah, he's not brilliant defensively, and Royal isn't brilliant going forward. So it's kind of, if we could merge the two of them, we'd have Roberto Carlos. But unfortunately, we cannot do that. But, for games where we need to break teams down, like apparently Everton, Doherty's the better choice. Even if Royal was fit, I think Doherty would have been the better choice, particularly in the 3-5-2. I think as soon as we changed to a 3-5-2, Doherty played so much better because he had so much more space in front of him. I think he was... That's the Doherty we signed, right? Not the Doherty that struggled. I mean, even last season, when he had that run of games where he played really well, he does excel in a 3-5-2. He can do it in a 3-4-3, but I think if we're going with a 3-5-2, Doherty has to play. Because if you have Bissouma playing as well, you have that extra man in midfield who can kind of drop in to fill those spaces here and there. So,
have you got the slide of the stats, Gibbo, the one that's red and black?
Yeah, we should have. So I'll just find it for us back. Okay. Obviously, I'm a novice at this. Here we go.
Yeah, me too. If you haven't hit the like, guys, if you could hit the like, that'd be great, please. So I knew that there was no shots on goal in the second half from Everton, but according to this stat, there weren't any shots on target, certainly, at all. Because of the two we talked to that they blazed over, didn't they? And I can't even remember one in the second half. Oh, did Calvert-Lewin have a header? I think.
Yeah,
when
he did.
There was like ironic cheers. I think. I can't remember it being any very close.
Let's be honest, they were shit, weren't they? Like I said, they came to stink the joint out. They nearly their game plan nearly worked in the first half, and then second half we made them pay for those 2 missed chances, which is what good teams do to teams like, we've had that over the years when we weren't as good as we were now, and I've seen us play some really good first halves against sort of teams. You think, oh, we'll be all right, second half now we've missed a few chances, and then you just get made to pay because the better team sort of gets their act together and turns it on, and that's what we pretty much did to Everton. Like I was saying earlier, it's sort of like getting used to this. There's some of us fans out there, like through all my Spurs supporting career, of sort of like we've always been a front foot team. We've always been on it, making chances, even when we haven't been great. We've played we weren't a great team. We've always sort of been on the front foot. But now, after the game, look, I watch the game and I'm sort of pulling my hair out and like, oh, this is. Why aren't we like really going for them? It's flat. But when the dust settles and you're watching it, you think back, become a bit more rational, and you're like, this is just what top teams do. We're controlling the game. We're trying to get hold of the ball. We're not giving it away. We're sort of like playing the game at our pace. We're waiting for them to drop on us so we can sort of like hit them on the counter and stuff. And it's just, it's getting used to. A lot of people are fine with it, but I'm in this sort of like little group where you just coming around to it now with it's sort of Conte ball and a completely different thing than we had it under Poch a bit, but we just look like we're just sort of in control of what we're doing now. We sort of know there's a plan and we're comfortable and confident in doing that, and it's just people like me who need to become a little bit more confident and comfortable with when we're doing it.
And the players, I think the players it's taken them time, hasn't it, to kind of buy into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're still
Mentality.
one person. We're still one person's error away from being a defeat, and we saw that at Arsenal with Reece's parry and the way they sort of played that game. So we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but you can definitely see a change in the way the game is played. And I think talking to a lot of people on Saturday, they were saying it was so nice that we can have an option to change it up. So it might be a nice point now to start talking about the Man United game. So Man United drew 0-0, didn't they, yesterday?
Yeah.
I didn't watch the game because there was about 17 games on yesterday, and I was kind of flipping between them. And then, so I haven't seen Bamford miss penalty, but I have seen his disallowed goal. What did you make? Have you seen the disallowed goal from Bamford?
Have you seen it, James?
Against Arsenal.
Yeah, I watched that game.
What did you think of that? What was your take on that? Because Arsenal won 1-0, for anyone who didn't know. It kind of rolls. The ball rolls down his arm.
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah.
Is it a foul?
It seemed harsh. Well, I'm not sure if it was given as a foul, but the ball sort of rolls down his arms and then he sort of shoots and then they pull it back and there's a defender on the floor. It's all just there. I don't even know, to be fair, I probably shouldn't have brought it up. Don't even know if VAR looked at it and then overturned it or anything, but it just seemed very soft. So at the moment, Arsenal are getting a lot of decisions going their way.
They've got the wind in their sails.
Yeah. Watching that game was so frustrating. I mean, Leeds should have won that game 3 or 4-0. The goal they conceded was sloppy. Saka was lucky.
Leeds.
Yeah, but at the same time, they had a penalty that Bamford missed. Of course, the ex-Chelsea player, doesn't score against Arsenal. Disallowed goal, again, seems soft. Probably should have had another penalty. Debatable, but yeah, it's fine. Arsenal will capitulate at some point. I think they got unlucky. They got lucky, rather, to beat Leeds. I think Leeds should have at least got a point. In the second half, I thought Leeds were actually quite good. So
I'm not worried about Arsenal. They were 5 points in front of us, weren't they? With 3 games to go at the end of last season. So they're 4 points now. And they are playing well. They've got the wind in their sails at the minute and they're getting all the luck. But I think when the World Cup comes, that will be a momentum. That will just chop anybody's momentum. So we just got to keep pace with them, keep plugging away. And I said to a friend this morning, we've got Kulusevski and Richarlison out. We've still got Kane and Son who can play up front, and Hill and Lucas if needed. if Arsenal get Jesus and Martinelli injured, they're screwed. That's the difference.
Do you remember when in the season Jose got sacked? I think it was that season when we were top of the league after 10 games.
Yeah,
and I remember seeing people saying we're going to win the league.
We weren't playing to be fair to them, they're playing some decent football there, and they're looking confident and comfortable. But
I've said this before that the fixtures have kind of aligned quite well because we've got a few home games to come. They've got a few tricky away games, and then we've had our more difficult away games have gone. I know you'd include City and that, which we haven't actually played yet. But they will have those games to come after the World Cup. Someone's put on Twitter today, they were like, but they haven't got that many players going to the World Cup, so it won't affect them in January. But
it will.
Like you said, the pause and the pause for all the teams is going to have an impact, isn't it?
So I think John put them up. Yes, Arsenal after the World Cup have got a tough run of fixtures. But what would have happened is if they were playing now and keep playing and get that momentum, sort of keep winning because winning becomes a habit. The World Cup wipes that out. Because you sort of even if they haven't got players going to the World Cup, they've just got players hanging around training, not playing any competitive matches. So, they'll do what, I mean, they should be playing City this week, shouldn't they? But they've cancelled it because they're playing PSV or something. So
and the Europe, so they're European games.
Fair play to them. They're having all the luck, but let's see where they are at the end of the season because they've had no injuries to key players yet. Partey's still knocking around. I don't know much longer he's going to be hanging around for them. But don't worry about them. They got lucky yesterday. But to be fair, we've had a couple of games where we've looked out, haven't we? Chelsea away didn't really deserve anything. Got a point, so just let them carry on.
So. Tomorrow, Wednesday's game is 8:15 UK time. It's on Amazon Prime over here. And I was at the 3-2 last year when Ronaldo just decided to run the show. United are 5th at the moment. Had a poor start, didn't they? Sort of picked up a little bit and then kind of dropped off a little bit. But I think at home they're always going to be a threat. Ronaldo, Fernandes yesterday were being awkward. There's talk of possibly that Eriksen is ill, whether Eriksen will be playing. What do you make of United, James, and their threat on Wednesday?
I think they've markedly improved since, especially since their demolition at the hands by Brentford, rather.
Hello.
Welcome, caller. Welcome.
Evening.
Who added me? I didn't ask to be added. I was just casually checking my phone.
They're definitely going to transfer them, right?
Sorry. Go on, James. Keep going.
I don't know. They're a good team, but when I look at the defensive core of their team, I think they struggle. If Eriksen is ill, then who knows? Maybe they play like McTominay and Casemiro right with Bruno Fernandes in front. That's a pretty solid team. But at the same time, are they going to sit back against us? Probably not. So
no.
I think it's kind of going to play into our hands. If we can go to Anfield and the Etihad and suffer against a barrage, then I think we can suffer against United's barrage and probably get a result because they're not brilliant defensively. Their backlines aren't brilliant. Their backlines aren't brilliant. Their backline is not brilliant. And, Son and Kane are going to have chances. I think we are better off playing a 3-5-2 in that sort of fixture, just for the added stability of Bissouma. But, I'm not too worried. I think it's going to be a difficult game. It's never an easy game, United. But I think there are stiffer opposition out there. And they're going to play into our game plan perfectly. So
we've done better at Old Trafford in recent years than we have on the whole in the Premier League, haven't we? We had the win with Lucas, got a couple. Eriksen, I think, scored in one. We won 2-1 a couple of years in a row. So we've had a bit of a better run at it, but big game because, because they're good, but I think we're better. I think, if you said now, take a point, I'd take a point. You never know how the game pans out, but, we've got to go there and get some.
Yeah, Caller, what do you make of United on Wednesday?
It worries me because our record at United is woefully poor in general. There's not that many wins there. Yes, Gibbo, it's better than in recent years, but it's still pretty crap. And United is a resurgent right now. Ultimately, if Eriksen plays, that we've absolutely got to play a 3 midfield. I was discussing this on the post-match show the other day with you, I think, Gibbo. You got to really snuffle out their midfield attack. And Eriksen makes everything tick. As we know, he can do serious amounts of damage if you give him time and space on the ball. If we're playing 2 in midfield at a 3-4-3, then I fear the worst. But if we play 3-5-2 with the 3, Højbjerg, Bentancur, and Basuma or Skip, then I'm happy. I think we can stuff them out, and I'm pretty sure we've got plenty of threat in the final third. I'd definitely play Perisic. That's one thing I would say.
Marking Ronaldo would help as well this game, wouldn't it? Not letting him have a free shot.
I mean, he was subbed and not very good, and had a little strop, didn't he, at the weekend? So there's one of 2 ways that could go. Gets dropped completely, or he turns up and has a worldie. And let's remember, last time against us, like he was being maligned by the manager, and he came on and
bagged that trick.
Bagged that trick, did the business, destroyed us. Really, he's a world class player on his day. They've got to get a bit closer to him.
That's why you got to play the 3, because he'll drop in, won't he? Call it. He won't he'll drop in on the ball.
I think we'll play 3-5-2 anyway, purely based on who's available. Because Kulusevski ain't going to be fully fit, and obviously Richarlison's going to be out for a couple of weeks. So unless they're going to put Brian Hill up on the left, or Perisic as the left-sided player and move Son out to the right, which I just don't think he would do. We are going 3-5-2, and I think that's the right formation anyway. So in many respects, the old Richarlison injury might help us a little bit. It does seem we have to shoehorn.
Richarlison in.
Richarlison or Kulusevski, to be honest, because I think our best formation, full stop, is 3-5-2. I'm sure plenty will disagree with me, but it's a difficult one when you've got 4 quality forwards. Trying to give more game time can be difficult sometimes.
Agreed, mate.
So it says on here, the kind of people put in the chat about Martial. It says Martial's got a back injury, but he may play. Maguire's got a muscle injury. Van de Beek
plays.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because he scored the own goal last time, I can still remember Romero shouting over him.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And then Greenwood, those of you who don't know today, has been remanded in custody. So
he won't be playing. He won't be playing.
So he won't be playing.
He's going to be in the slammer for a long time, I think.
Yeah. I just think with like this game at Old Trafford, we don't win at the Emirates ever. We never win at Stamford Bridge.
Really?
We never win at Anfield.
Really?
And we very, very rarely win it at Old Trafford.
Yes.
We've got to start. We've got to start getting results. I know we drew at Liverpool.
But have we?
We've got. Well, you got to start going and winning. If we draw 2 of them and win.
No, I think you can draw them. I think that's fine. What wins championships is knocking off poor, the lower half teams.
But it'd be nice to win sometimes at these grounds, wouldn't it?
It'd be lovely, but it's not necessary. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think it would be very good for confidence as well to start getting these places and win. I would like to see us start winning it, some of them, rather than just getting a point being a good result. Let's go and win.
Gibbo, we won there 5-1, didn't we? The other year?
6-1.
Yeah, I said.
How did that affect the season?
6-1.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from, but obviously, if we're thinking I'm not saying we're going to win the league, but in my opinion, we want to be challenging for the league, and if we want to be doing that, we need to be going there and getting a win.
I think if you extrapolate our points in the first 10 games and apply it to the whole season, which obviously isn't how it works, but if you did that, we'd end up on something like 87 points or 87.5 points, which isn't title winning, but it's very close to winning, right? We're going to have to get results in some of those bigger games, especially if you want to go far in the Champions League. Maybe not this season, maybe next season, but I think United are the weakest of those sorts of teams where we need to go and get a result. I mean, obviously you have to beat the smaller teams, you have to be consistent, but it'd be nice if we could start showing up in big away games? Because that was the big criticism of Pochettino. We never did it under Pochettino.
The thing that frustrates me about these games is we never seem to be leading. We weren't leading. We were leading at West Ham, and then we equalised. We weren't leading at Chelsea, and last year at the 3-2 United, we were never leading. We were always chasing them back. So it would be nice to just go 1-0 up and see where that takes us. And
ironically, when it was 2-2, I fancied us to go on and win the game. We sort of looked like we were going to go on and win it, and then obviously Ronaldo smashes an header in. But
I mean, you take Ronaldo out of that game, we win.
Yeah.
You defend against Ronaldo in that game, we win. So, you'd like to think that they've learnt their lesson. And I'm quite sure Conte, like Arteta plays the music at the training ground of the opposition in some pathetic fashion. I'm quite sure Conte's got the video out from last game where it was the Ronaldo show, and he's highlighting everything right now, today, tomorrow, sort of showing them, what they did wrong last time, what they've got to do right this time to win. But let's keep it real. A draw at United is a good result. We're all happy with it.
Take a draw, mate. But like I said, you never know how the game pans out. We could come away with a draw and think, really should have won that. A bit like, the Sporting Lisbon game where we lost.
You guys are talking about the title, and I just don't think we're there. I don't think
we're there. But I think, like James said, you've got to try every season. If we can win it one or two of them, if we can win it one or two of those grounds, and it doesn't mean that we win the league, at least we've sort of, if we go to Anfield and win, say, you sort of look, we are capable of doing it. We can go there and win. I know we got a draw, but now we've won up there. But we're capable of going and doing it again. Like, we believe that we can win at the Etihad because we've done it quite a few times. Yep. But I think our record at Anfield, even not in the Premier League before that, is absolutely atrocious.
It is.
So just go up there and just but just go there and sort of win up there and say, look, we can do it. That's proof. Let's go and do it next season and push on a bit more.
Look, we're capable of doing it. I just think a little bit of it is mindset and a little bit of his confidence. Look at we've run Liverpool pretty close, and this is the general piss take from all the opposition fans. Or, you pushed us close, but in the end you were Spurs. Yeah. You are right. At some point, that's got to break in order for us to be title contenders.
And Conte will want that as well.
I think
this
is what I'm saying is. I mean, Conte's releasing some pressure off the players by saying this stuff, but I think it's a bit of a fool's belief if you think that we are going to challenge for the title. I think you've got to be realistic about it. Otherwise, you're going to set yourself up to have a meltdown every time we lose or draw a game.
Absolutely. But the thing that worries me, though, is that I agree with what you said there. We need to have a better mentality when we go to those grounds, and we capitulated at Arsenal this season. Totally. And that's what worries me. Is all that everything you just said there is completely right. We can look at previous fixtures, can't he? And you can look at how we've played, and you can look at formations. At the end of the day, it's in their head how they are going to be when they turn up there.
Emerson Royal lost us the game at Arsenal. Being sent off for something stupid. I don't think Conte would say, first off, we had the game under control because, they're always going to have ball dominance over you, but footballing teams like Arsenal, like City, like Liverpool, I think we'll know where we're at, by the way, Kerry King, at the end of the season, if Arsenal are ahead of us or not. But those teams are going to have the ball and keep the ball. We play a different brand of football. We play Conte ball. So, I think if the sending off hadn't happened, it may well have been a different result, Arsenal. I think we may have come away with a draw, quite possibly.
My point with Arsenal, HG, is I was quite confident that we go there. HG, sorry, caller. My point with that, because obviously HG, when we did it, HG was like, nah, we're not going there, we won't win. And I felt quite confident. I thought, bit of pressure on them because they're top and they always beat us there. We're made of sterner stuff now under Conte. But HG was right. We went there and I thought the game would sort of pan out how it did first half. They'd start off like a house on fire and we'd sort of just grind them down and get control of it a bit more, which we did. But ultimately, we went there and shit the bed, which is what we do quite often, isn't it?
Ultimately.
And that's what Becky's trying to say, is that we went there, thinking that the old Conte effect takes over, and Lloris as a stinker. Like, I know you're blaming Emerson, which is right. It was a ridiculous sending off, but the second half we should have gone into it. We sort of like got on the front foot. We were sort of taking control. And then you go in there, 49 minutes, 2-1 down. The place lifts up. Their confidence gets up, and then Emerson gets sent off. So between them, just fucking nightmare. But that's what we've got to stop doing.
The thing is, we'll turn them over at our place. I'm not worried about Arsenal.
Absolutely, I'm not worried, mate. I think over the course of the season we will, but I'm just talking about these games, and like like Becky says, those sorts of things are still in your head. That someone will have a brain fart.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
So I think we've got another body in now.
Can't believe you got me mixed up with that handsome brute over there.
Hello, HG.
I'm Irish Stephen, the Arsenal fan.
You could very well be. I'm not going to ask you to do your Irish impression in front of 80 people and however many people watch this on catch.
I won't.
You do have very similar haircuts, though, I will say.
Well, I mean, lack of hair cut is probably the more,
And
more
beards are kind of similar.
Yeah. How is everyone?
All right, how are you,
How are
HG?
you?
Okay, I heard lots of answers there, but I'm all right.
Right, we've just been talking about Man United, but I was thinking we spent a few minutes talking about Ronaldo. Let's go back to Kane. Gibbo, you've got some slides on Kane, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the slides on Kane now.
So Saturday was his 400th appearance. And I think we said last week Frankfurt was Conte's 50th, wasn't it? So it was Kane's 400th appearance.
Here we go.
There we go. And if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I think is he 7 behind Greasy now? Is it just 7? He's not far behind him. And then in the week, Son and Kane got to 50 assists and contributions, didn't they, between them as well? So it just, I was hearing yesterday someone was saying that it's something as low as 7 or 8 consecutive games to score in the Premier League, and Kane scored in 5 as well. So that's something else. Hopefully, he'll be trying to kind of build on Wednesday. And then Gibbo showed the other slide, the one that was on Match of the Day.
I'm going to have to shoot off, guys.
Oh,
Appreciate
thanks,
coming
James.
on.
Have a nice night.
Everyone leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Have a nice night, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, James.
Enjoy your night, buddy. Ta-ra, mate.
Bye.
We're all jealous. Out on the school night. So this was on Match of the Day, wasn't it? About how, because Spurs have had their best start to the Premier League in the first 10 games. And then they sort of showed this up quite briefly, but talked about how he's obviously got 9 goals this season. HG, what do you make of Kane? And it's kind of going under the radar, isn't he? A bit.
It's a slight improvement on last season.
It is, yeah. Didn't turn up till December last year.
Yeah, quite. 828 minutes, most of it pining for a Man City move that never happened, and now less than 100. That's incredible. But it is weird. I don't feel like he's had many games with more than 1 goal. Maybe just the 1. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not 2 goals here and then a break and then another 2 goals. It's just a consistent goal every game. And I'll take that kind of 9 goals in 10 games for the rest of the season. Will there be like 30 odd goals, 31 goals in the league? That's not a bad haul.
Won't it?
I keep reading about how obviously if Haaland hadn't had his consecutive hat-tricks or 3 consecutive hat-tricks, whatever it was, then they're really great stats for Kane. Like because of what we said, doesn't usually sort of start well. I know we've talked before about Sonny having a kind of slow start as well. It's long, and this is supposed to be him not playing at full intensity because of the World Cup coming up as well. So
regardless of Haaland, it's really good, isn't it? Haaland's sort of had a freakish start, but it's great. But he's a quality player, isn't he? He's class. Always has been. So
he's a world-class player, and you don't see those very often at Tottenham. Let's be really honest about it. Certainly not with that longevity. God bless Charlie Charlie Kane for signing that contract for him.
Well,
9 goals, his best ever start to a Premier League season, and he's doing it largely unnoticed because Haaland's, just been unreal, really. So
in a season, quote unquote, that Spurs aren't playing very well and aren't doing that well. That's the thing that baffles me, is that we're not supposed to. Everyone keeps saying we haven't clicked yet, or we haven't got out of second gear, and all these sort of phrases.
I think that is true, Becky. I think that is true, and there's a few people that are waiting for the bubble to burst to say "I told you so," and there's a few people, a lot of people that believe that. This is just the way Conte football is, and that's the way it will continue to be. So we'll see who's right at the end of the season, won't we?
I mean, it's interesting that someone pointed out to me that of the top 10 in the league, we've only played 3 of the other 9 in the top 10. I think that we've played the bottom 4. So there is this kind of idea that we've got Man United who are 7th, 6th or 7th, and then Newcastle around there.
Yeah,
and then who is it after that? Another team, Bournemouth, are in the top half.
Yeah.
So maybe the next 3 games you'll have a bit more of an idea of where Spurs are. Perhaps perhaps the record is great, but maybe it's slightly higher than it should be. But but Bournemouth away, you'd think that Spurs would get a result there, and any home game right now for Spurs looks like 3 points. So it's an interesting, because we don't really know. Because I think as you said, most fans, we don't feel that we've clicked really. We don't feel like we've played massively well in any game. Maybe the first game at Southampton felt like, oh, we're going to win every game 4-1. This is great. But if and when it finally does click a bit more, or we get Kulusevski back for a 3-4-3, or we start playing 3-5-2 a bit more often. And I know people are trying to get Kulusevski somehow into that 3-5-2 team, which is nice to have that issue. But I think probably the next couple of games, especially, will tell us a bit more as to whether our 7 wins is a bit too many for how we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, though, we're on the same points as City, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's goals conceded, right? Like, was it Newcastle have the best with 9, and we've got 10, and City have got 10. So you start to think, like, we're not playing well, but teams aren't scoring against us very often. Obviously, only one team has scored more than 2 against us. So you have to. Was it 5 of the 10 goals were in the 2 London derbies? At Chelsea and Arsenal. Outside of that, I mean, it's pretty good. So it's kind of a confidence from knowing that we're not going to concede a bucket load, but you do think that maybe I think every Spurs fan will always think that you concede at least once in every game.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's never going to disappear. Really, most likely now at this point, but there is that worry. But if you've only conceded 10, given the way the season's going, it's pretty good.
Not bad considering our centre backs, are apparently a weakness and not good enough, and
wing backs are rubbish.
Upgraded, and the wing backs are terrible.
Shocking.
It's almost like a back 5, but the back 5 are the 3 centre backs and the 2 central midfielders. If we're playing a 3-4-3, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it seems to be, and we ask the wing backs to kind of join the front 3. Again, it makes sense. It's almost like the donut strategy, where you give up the middle of the pitch and just try and play around teams. But I think we've all talked about 3-5-2 and how it can be better for us. So maybe United on Wednesday night is a decent time to try it.
What do we think our predictions for the United game will be? HG, start with you.
I think we'll stick with 3-4-3, to be honest. But I'm not sure I want that.
He plays up front then.
Sorry? For them?
No, you're talking for us, aren't you, HG?
Yeah, 3-5-2 for us. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Because it's United. I mean, and despite the fact that Ten Hag may not be the greatest thing in the world, I suspect that their team is better now than the one that Solskjaer had last season, and the one that Rangnick had last season, because they've strengthened in midfield. So that's what makes them a better side. It's not going to be easy at all.
Do you think he'll go 3-5-2 HG, or do you think he'll bring Lucas in and play 3-4-3?
I think we all know the answer to this. I mean, he'll stick with his 3-4-3. I mean, I know he talked in the press conference about possible options to play in that third. Like Perisic can play there, and Brian has done well, and Lucas can come in. Maybe it's all just a ruse, and we are going to go
3-5-2, surely.
Yeah, to me that's logical, but I think 3-5-2 has been logical for a number of games this season, and we haven't done it. So, it's going to be a strange one. But if we want to have any kind of attacking threat off the bench, then I guess we have to go 3-5-2.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. I don't know.
The last time Mora played on the right wing, was it Leicester last season, I think? And didn't he get substituted and brought Kulusevski on, or I seem to remember him not really doing anything at all, and he kind of came off just after half time, I think.
That could be said for quite a few games that he's
I can't remember.
played,
I'm sure it was Leicester last year. But it's that idea of
Kulusevski did come on against Leicester and had a really good game, didn't he?
For Mora, I think it was. But also it depends how fit Mora is, isn't it? As to whether he is fit enough to start in that position, in Richarlison's position, isn't it?
Does anyone know what his injury was?
His mouth, probably. His politics. His politics.
Like he disappeared for 6 or 7 games. It was like, when Michael Jordan went to play, baseball for a season, people started thinking, was it something else? That was an odd one. Because there didn't seem to be much talk about it at all.
They sort of said he wasn't getting, at one point, Conte said he doesn't seem to be getting it, responding or getting any better. Then a week later, he was back in training.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting the managers lie, Gibbo?
Well, I think they were making stories. I hope I want us to go 3-5-2. I hope we go 3-5-2 against United. And
what I would say is it's nice to have Lucas back as an option on the bench because he can change a game.
Someone put in the chat before it was Davo being a bit sarcastic as about Hill and whether Hill would start instead of Mora.
He was being sarcastic, I bet.
It's just Dave, isn't it? Yeah, it's just Dave being Dave. But I'd like to see that. I haven't seen enough of Hill. I don't think Man United's the game to do it, though, if I'm being really honest.
No.
Bournemouth away or Leeds at home, in that type of game.
Leeds
so should we look at predictions then for United and what we think the score will be? Gibbo, do you want to go first?
I'm going to go 1-1. That's sort of like my positive take on it. 1-1.
Well, I'm glad you've come down from your Arsenal giddy predictions. Yeah.
What do you mean Arsenal giddy predictions? I fancied us away at Arsenal.
But you don't fancy us away at United?
No, I don't really fancy us away at United. I think we'll. If I was being really, really honest, I think we'll play well, and I think Ronaldo will probably get sucker punched by Ronaldo. It'll probably be 2-1 to United, but we're going to be positive and say 1-1.
HJ, what do you think?
We played really well at United last year and got beat. So, yeah, I mean, it is. Ronaldo's the key, right? He's basically done nothing for Man United all season, but he always tends to score against Spurs and show up against Spurs. And if he starts, which I assume he's going to, I don't know who else they would have to play up front by himself. But, yeah, I don't know. United away, how many times have we won there in my life? Like 3? Even though I might remember them, maybe 4. It doesn't feel like it's a certainty or even still an option, but I want to be positive for a change. So I'm going to say we're going to find a way to do it, even if it's just 1-0. Very, very kind of like what I thought the Everton game would be, where not too many chances, both sides kind of cancelling each other out for various reasons. But yeah, I maybe another Kane penalty just to wind up all the Arsenal fans that little bit more.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Hopefully at the away end this time, because last year he scored it in the Stretford end, didn't he? I remember filming it and I'm to zoom in. Caller, what do you think? What's your prediction?
I'd love to sit here and I'd love to say that we're going to win this, but I think a draw is the most likely and best outcome we're going to get.
It's not the best outcome.
I think it's the
winning
most
is the best outcome.
But,
yeah,
you know what I mean. I don't think we're going to do it. I'm going to say we're going to go 2-1 defeat.
Okay.
And I rarely predict a defeat, but we've got such a bad record against United, against Arsenal, against Chelsea. I was suckered in by your positivity before the Arsenal game, Gibbo. I had HG there telling me what was going to happen.
Mate, I'm not a really positive Spurs fan, mate. I've been here for years and years. I just had a feeling that we were going to go and do something there, and
Yeah, well, keep your feelings to yourself next time.
Yeah, mate. I will.
I'm going, and I've got Seb a ticket, so we're going.
Is Ericsson playing?
He's ill. We don't know if he's back yet. He's ill.
If he plays, then I think we're in trouble. If he doesn't, I think we can do it.
Yeah, which is what we said before. I'm going to go with.
I think it'll play
2-2. I'm going to go with, because I like you. I think there'll be goals in it. I just can't see us having enough to get over the line. But a last minute, dodgy one would be great, because it would make up for that one where it was over the line when we played that midweek away game years and years ago, wasn't it? When it was over before goal line technology. Yeah. So that would be great. But 2-2, I think.
But we should have enough, shouldn't we, to get it over the line? When you think about it, when you look at it, we should have enough to get it over the line.
But we should have had enough against Arsenal and we didn't. And we should have had enough against Chelsea and we didn't. That's the trouble.
We were, I just, really, we have got enough. We've got a good enough team and a good enough coach to go there and win. But
because I watched the first half of the Man United game at the weekend. Against them, Newcastle, and it was a pretty even first half. And I thought, if Newcastle can keep up with this United side, and granted, United didn't have Ericsson at the weekend. They played, I think, Casemiro and Fred as their midfield too, with Bruno ahead of them. But it took me forever to figure out who was playing down the left, because I never heard Sancho's name, never even saw he was on the pitch. It was always Ronaldo down the middle, and then Anthony down the right, and who was down the left? I couldn't figure it out. But I don't know, if I'm United, I don't think Ten Hag will change his formation either. But if I was Ten Hag, I'd be thinking maybe I would want to have somehow Ericsson and Bruno in the team and leave the Casemiro Fred behind them. Because, I don't know, every team that's played Spurs and done quite well against us has flooded that midfield area. And that's what United could do. United could leave Ronaldo and Anthony to kind of do whatever they want up top and just say to the other four, right, you win the ball. And then if you're able to move the ball forward, it's going to be really difficult for Spurs. But if we do go 3-5-2 and we have a bit more control ourselves, you do think that Kane and Son have enough to beat whoever United centre backs are. So it's not an easy game. I mean, a draw is probably the obvious choice, but as we see in those games, more often than not, it is the team that takes those chances when they get them. United beat us last year because Ronaldo had 3 shots. I don't remember United doing anything else in that game apart from just giving the ball to Ronaldo and him finding the net. So I just, it's who shows up and who takes their chances.
Who's playing wing backs for you, HG? Would you? Obviously, Emerson can't come in, so I'll take it that would be Doherty. Who plays on the left?
I would have Doherty and Perisic, I think. Yeah. I think we need the extra quality. Sessegnon has the pace to help with Anthony, but I just don't think he's disciplined enough. So it would be Doherty and Perisic for me. I was all about Spence for the Everton game, but I think the United one, it should be Doherty now, especially since he did play at the weekend.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. He had a good game.
Yeah, he did.
As ever.
If Doherty has a good game against United, and Emerson's back, fit, Newcastle.
Emerson will play.
Yeah, that's the question.
For whatever reason, Conte has decided on him as his number one, and I don't think that's likely to change unless Doherty does something amazing. I really can't see it changing.
Maybe he'll score tomorrow, because he very rarely rotates them after they've scored. So maybe he'll score tomorrow and then he'll play on Sunday as well.
What do you think, HG?
Right now, Royal will come back in against Newcastle. I mean, we were at the Newcastle home game last season, right? Royal and Doherty played the wing backs that day, and we won 5-1 and destroyed him in the second half.
Doherty scored, didn't he, in that game?
Yeah, and Emerson, didn't he?
Did. Yeah, they both.
And Davis.
And Davis, yeah, it was all the defenders that day, pretty much. I still remember that. Kulusevski was so good in that game.
Yeah, that pass to Sok. Was that the one where that move?
Yeah, I remember sitting next to Caller watching that goal. It was fantastic because weirdly enough, I could see Doherty coming in even more. So it's we're going to see the kind of full, and then Son just first touch was perfect, find the corner. It was probably my favourite goal of last season, that one. And so we do it again. But yeah, Emerson will start. He will start, and yeah, we've got Sporting 3 days after. He'll probably play in that one too. So Doherty could score a hat trick against Man United, and I'd still be like, I think Royal's coming back.
But like, on a slight tangent, we're talking about the three in midfield, and you just said about Kulusevski. Could we, when he's back, could we play a three in midfield and Kulusevski be one of them, do you think? Or do you think he's, I'm looking at it, like if you want to be a bit more defensive and play a three where you have a holding and then the two push slightly on, you can do that. But if in a tighter game, you could have Bentancur and Højbjerg doing that sort of screening job and just play Kulusevski in front of them.
Like, do you remember, like, when we were really good, right? It seems like so long ago now, but when we were really
1981. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that far back, but so what, 16, 17, we often did that. We played with the back three, and if it wasn't working for whatever reason, then Dyer would move forward and play in midfield, and we'd have a back four again, because with Vertonghen and Alderweireld, we didn't lose anything, right? Like, they were so good as a partnership anyway. I get the feeling that Spurs may end up having a similar idea where, like, if you can get Kulusevski in the team, I don't want to see him at wing back. I really don't.
No.
Right? Because, like, yes, he might be defensively aware and all the rest of it, and Conte might have said it, but you're right. Like, if I'm going to have one that sits, whoever it is, and then ask two of the midfield three to push on, I want Kulusevski to be one of those two. Absolutely, I would. So that would be interesting to see if it's ever going to happen. It probably won't, but that it is possible to get that front three in a 3-5-2, and that to me would be the best way of doing it. Not having Kulusevski as a wing back.
Right, I think it's that's we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. After our second start, we had 10 minutes of talking to each other before we went live. That was fun.
Brilliant. It happened to us all. I'd like to say it has, but it's never happened to me.
We were flying, weren't we, Beck? We hit our stride. Just as John come on and said.
How many did you have at that?
John, only about 37. So there's 85 people now.
So you won your pre-season game 4-0, and then it was suddenly the season was about to start. Oh, all the best bits have been done. Yeah,
we just said them all over again, didn't we? Right, okay. So Gibbo, you and HG, you're back on Wednesday, aren't you? After United game, hopefully talking about a win.
Yeah, we're back
and not any mistakes.
No, we're back on Wednesday. Pretty much straight after the final whistle against Man United. We've had a couple of good shows.
Kicks off at 8:15, doesn't it? Well, so that's what's that 10 o'clock-ish.
Yeah. So we've had a couple of good. Been quite consistent with our post-match shows recently. So hopefully another good one against Man United with a good result. We get loads of viewers tune in to hear my ramblings, and HG turn my ramblings into something that people understand.
And I'm just excited that I get to watch it on English TV, because obviously I'll just nick my mum's Amazon Prime account and then stick the VPN on and watch it on English, because watching games in English is still like the gold standard a little bit. German is fine, but it'd be fun to actually know exactly what you're talking about and what was said and who said it.
Depends who's on commentary.
Well,
Amazon Prime ones are quite good, aren't they? They have like a
sure, but Malaman works for them, doesn't he? God.
But since the Arsenal City game's not happening, like, they'll just switch everyone to the next best game, which you'd imagine would be us.
Yeah,
you'd right. I mean,
there's a load of 7:30 kickoffs, isn't there? And then there's just that one's 8:15.
We are the special case. They'll have whoever their best team are. Will surely be on our game.
We'll get Alan Smith.
What time do we kick off, Becky?
8:15.
8:15, yeah.
Yeah, it's so that in America, isn't it? They can show the first half and then they can change 8:15 for the second.
Is that right?
Is that right?
Yeah, apparently. And then caller, it says you're back here on Friday. Do you know who you're with on Friday?
Not clue, but I'm sure.
Okay, so it says here with Flat Cap Jack and also Jack Hoyle. Is that right? And Steve.
Yeah.
Well, if you knew that, why'd you ask me?
Because I thought you knew. I thought you could say it.
You did it so much better.
And it says that Brendan is doing an audio pod on Wednesday.
He is
which should be out on Thursday morning. It says
Apple Music and all good podcasting providers.
Throwing out loads of content. The Cheese Room at the minute. Get on it,
cheese, please.
Yeah,
because there'll soon be a 6-week break. Well, we'll have nothing to talk about again.
Well,
Be back to me not knowing any players.
The World Cup, Becky. You know.
Huh?
We'll have that little event called the World Cup to talk about.
Yeah, I know. But you'll ask me about players that I won't know. We'll be sitting there going, I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be an educational experience for you.
It will. Yeah, it will. Thank you to everyone for watching. I think the most we had like 110 people. So that was great. Thank you for joining us. And it was at like a slightly different time, wasn't it? And yeah, like you said, loads of different things on this week. Hopefully talking about some more Spurs win. But the games come thick and fast. That's the one thing about if we don't get the result we want on Wednesday. Sunday we've got Newcastle at 4:30. So it's just boom, boom, boom all the time. Thank you very much for joining me. Matt, from the start, thanks for being there and pressing the buttons again as ever.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. Love talking about Spurs. Love talking about Højbjerg. Love talking football.
Højbjerg.
And Caller, thanks for kind of accidentally being part of the show.
I just got to drop in, to be honest. Yeah,
you that's why I clicked it.
Any excuse to get out into the man cave is a good one.
And HG, thank you for joining us again later on.
I'm sorry I was so late. It's just that later is the better for me. But it was good to talk a little bit of Spurs and to see your beautiful faces because like we don't have beautiful faces here, not so much. So I'm Tottenham is. I mean, look at that. I've got Spurs behind Becky. I've got Spurs behind Caller, and I've got the corner of the Spurs kit behind Kivo. But yeah, come on, you Spurs, brilliant.
Right, thank you. Now hold on a minute, I need to press the right buttons again. Okay, that's it. Wait.
The host.
I know. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.